Trial of kinais, of many of the kinais of Tisha Bav, that the kinais of Tisha Bav conclude with words of hope and with words of nechama, words in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu comforts Klal Yisrael that Klal Yisrael will approach its destined future. And being that we stand now after Mincha in the very last hour of Tisha Bav, I thought it appropriate that we should conclude the day of Tisha Bav with understanding what are the concepts of nechama and from where can Klal Yisrael receive its nechama from such a blood-drenched history. We know the Gemara in Megillah speaks about Gimel de Paranias, Shiva de Nechemta, Ubeis de Teyufta. The Gemara in Megillah speaks about the 3 Shabbosos preceding Tisha Bav, having haftarahs that speak of impending punishment and the destruction of Yerushalayim and the Beis HaMikdash. Immediately following Tisha Bav, we have 7 weeks in which the haftarah is dedicated to the nechama, to the comforting and the consoling of Klal Yisrael by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then we have 2 Shabbos, one before Rosh Hashanah and another between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that deal with the concepts of Hashem calling Klal Yisrael to tshuva. We have completed the Gimel de Paranias, and we are hopefully going to enter into the Shiva de Nechemta. And I'd like to pose a number of questions about this particular order that our Chazal ordained for the haftarahs of the summer months. Firstly, the question that has to come to all of us is that the order seems to be out of order, because most of us know that if we go through crisis and tragedy and suffering, that the immediate call to Klal Yisrael is a call of tshuva. Nach besad rachenu v'nach kaira v'nashuva el Hashem. Hashivenu Hashem elecha v'nashuva chadei shamenu kikedem. Words in which we complete the Megillah of Eicha on the night of Tisha Bav. And nevertheless, our Chazal saw it fit and appropriate that in the Seder of the Haftarahs, we would begin after the 3 Haftarahs of punishment, not with the 2 Haftarahs of tshuva, but 7 Haftarahs of nechama. And only after completing 7 Haftarahs of nechama, only then moving into 2 Haftarahs that call us to tshuva. Wouldn't it be more logical to first call Klal Yisrael to tshuva and then tell them nechama, then comfort them, then console them, now that they've put their house into order? Isn't it a little bit out of order to say everything is going to be all right and now go do tshuva? Aren't we used to the order being the other way? Do tshuva and then things will straighten out? And nevertheless, our Chazal ordained that nechama has to be a 7-week message to Klal Yisrael before we address the subject of tshuva. This is one question. In addition to this, one also has to wonder if the numbers that are allotted to punishment, nechama, and tshuva are random numbers. The 3 that speak about the impending destruction of Yerushalayim and the Beis HaMikdash. Why 3? Why 7 of nechama? Why 2 of tshuva? The reality is that 2/3 of the question we can answer immediately. The 3 of impending destruction is very logical, unfortunately, because we know that there are 3 major faculties that the human being possesses: his thoughts, his speech, and his action, that affect all of the different levels of the soul, as Reb Chaim Volozhin details it in his great work, the Nefesh HaChaim. So it could very well be that the 3 weeks that speak about destruction parallel the 3 faculties that Klal Yisrael misused, and the destruction and the devastation that it wreaked upon the 3 levels of the soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. The 2 Shabbosos in which there's a call to tshuva could most probably refer to tshuva me'ahava and tshuva me'yira, the 2 levels of tshuva. The tshuva that we do returning to Hashem out of respect, awe, fear, and reverence for the greatness of Hashem, and the tshuva me'ahava, the higher level of wanting to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu out of love. But what's with the Shiva de Nechemta? Where does the number 7 come in reference to Nechama? What is it supposed to mean? While we're on the subject of Nechama and trying to explore its place in the order of the Shabbosos and the number of weeks, it would most probably be worthwhile to also mention a well-known medrash that the Psikta Rabbasi brings about Nechama. A very interesting medrash, perplexing but interesting. The Psikta Rabbasi brings a medrash that says the following: that when Yeshaya Hanavi attempted to comfort Klal Yisrael, they were ready to murder him. You know, Yeshaya, we don't know what you're after. One day you come and you warn us of terrible destruction and devastation. The next day you have the audacity to come back and to comfort us. Are you talking out of the 2 sides of your mouth? What is it? And they just could not hear the comfort of Yeshaya. They couldn't hear it. And until Yeshaya Hanavi, and Yeshaya Hanavi attempted bringing other Nevi'im to comfort Klal Yisrael, not only himself, and they rejected. I don't want to hear any more from you, even if it's words of Nechama. Until Yeshaya Hanavi came to Klal Yisrael and said, Nachmu, Nachmu, Ami, Yoimar Elokeichem, that the words of Nechama are not my words, but the words of Hashem, then they were prepared to listen. However, after they were prepared to listen, and parenthetically, there is another version in the Medrash that the way that Yeshaya Hanavi convinced them to listen wasn't just from the Yomar Elokeichem, that Hashem is saying it, but Nachmu, Nachmu, Imi, that Hashem said, take me with you, Yeshaya. Put me into your words, so that when you say your words of Nechama, Klal Yisrael will hear me and not just hear you. Whatever that's supposed to mean, which we'll explain. In any case, after Yeshaya Hanavi is accepted and his words of Nechama are not rejected anymore, Klal Yisrael turns to Yeshaya Hanavi and says, Shema rak le'oisei hadar. Maybe it's only for our generation that there is comfort. How do I know that the future generations that will desperately need comfort and consolation from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that those generations will also get the Nechama that they need? To which Yeshaya Hanavi says, Yomar Elokeichem, the future tense. Yomar is in the future. Hashem will say Nechama to Klal Yisrael in the future as well. When, where, and how? Yeshaya Hanavi said Nechama, but where do we see Nechama in our present generations? That there is a Nechama that's transferred to Klal Yisrael even to the present time. And then to make matters most confusing, there is another opinion in the Psikta Rabbasi that interpret the words Nachmu, Nachmu, Ami totally differently. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Klal Yisrael as follows: I don't understand. If somebody had a palace and the palace burnt down, who would you try to console, if not the king of the palace? If a person had a vineyard and the vineyard burned to the ground, who would you console if not the owner of the vineyard? If a person had a flock of sheep and they were all devoured by wild animals, who would you console if not the shepherd of his flock? To which HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't understand. I need you, Klal Yisrael, to give me a nachama, to give me comfort. Nachmu, nachmu, ami. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to us and says, my people, comfort me. What is that supposed to mean? So what I'd like to share with you to answer these questions has a very interesting history. These are words of a great tzaddik whose daughter passed away during the 9 days. And the disciples of this great tzaddik did not want to tell the tzaddik of the death of his daughter. And they thought that they would be able to keep from the tzaddik the death of his daughter. The tzaddik himself was traveling from town to town, and they felt that they would be able to keep the death of his daughter from him. And it came to the Shabbos of Nachmu, and the tzaddik rose in a town that he was for Shabbos, and he delivered a Shabbos Nachmu drasha. And his disciples said after the drasha that he was telling everybody in the audience that he knew of his daughter's death and that he was teaching his audience how a person can cope with such a horrendous loss. And his whole drasha was on the backdrop of how he was speaking to himself, yearning for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be menachem him. And therefore, the words that I share with you that were written over from this tzaddik are not hypothetical, they're not philosophically abstract, but they were the great efforts of a tzaddik to cope with most probably one of the deepest pains that a human being could ever, God forbid, experience in life, the loss of a child. And the tzaddik said as follows: we all believe in hashgacha pratis. What is hashgacha pratis? Hashgacha pratis means that I know that everything that takes place in my life takes place with some rhyme and reason, though it might be very bewildering to me what the particular reasons are. And that I know that there is some ultimate goal and some ultimate good purpose for that which takes place. This is hashgacha pratis. Not believing that everything is just random, that everything is just natural circumstance and coincidence, but that everything that visits me in my life visits me with purpose. That's the concept of hashgacha pratis. But I dare say that most people live with hashgacha pratis not during the crisis, but in retrospect of the crisis, maybe. In other words, most of us, when we are going through a situation that is extremely painful and even possibly life-threatening, while we're in the midst of the pain, while we're in the throes of anguish, while we are totally embittered and bewildered and confused with what is happening to us, We're not philosophers. And if somebody does you the big favor of giving you a speech on Hajj